A summertime cool down, severe weather and heavy rainfall across multiple states, and the Atlantic hurricane season ramping up in a big way toward the end of August. Welcome back, everybody. Good Monday morning out there. Good start to the work week. We got lots to talk about here and dive into this video. If you guys have not subscribed down below, subscribe. It's free. We got great weather content coming here this week regarding your weather forecast. Looking here at the past 24 hours, we have some heavy rainfall across the lower peninsula there of Michigan, getting into northwestern Ohio. Some areas into western Michigan there actually picking up around 2 inches worth of rainfall here in the past 24 hours, and across portions there of southern Texas, across the Texas coast, with that tropical system moving to the west here into portions of southern Texas and northeastern Mexico. Yeah, they did see some rainfall amounts of 2 to even 4 inches plus down in some of these areas, providing the threat for some localized flash flooding as well as that monsoon season continuing with some moisture up across portions of the Rockies and the southwestern United States here, with a couple areas picking up, a couple inches of rainfall across portions there of the Rockies the past 24 hours. Looking here ahead, kind of, zooming out a little bit, showing you what we got going on here. We got that ridge across portions here of the southwestern United States, but a massive trough continues across the New England region. And we also got a pretty strong trough up across portions of the Aleutian Islands. And what these are both kind of working in tandem to do is actually bring this ridge farther west and kind of squeeze it northward here. We have all that squeezing motion that I've been talking about. You have a trough to the west, you got a trough to the east. The only way this ridge can build is build northward, and that's what we're seeing across the Rockies and the western United States here on your Monday. And that really builds northward as we get toward the middle of the week here, with the amplification of the troughs across the Aleutian Islands and the eastern part of the United States. Again, we'll have that ridge start to build northward here towards southwestern Canada as we get towards the middle of the week here towards your Wednesday, August 17th. So looking at that here, the surface with the temperatures, yeah, we got still that heat to talk about across the southern plains, getting up into the central plains there from Kansas, southern Nebraska, down through Oklahoma, Arkansas, Texas, Louisiana. These areas will see widespread 90s, upper 90s to even lower 100s here across these areas as we move into this afternoon. But you can tell where that trough is. We got the cooler weather here with the 60s and 70s across much of the Great Lakes, New England, and southeastern Canada as we move here into this afternoon. We still got some heat kind of lingering across the western United States here as we move into this afternoon as well. But even as we move into Tuesday, we'll start to shrink this heat a little bit farther to the south. We'll start to shrink it down toward the south. We'll bring in some cooler air across some of these areas into Kansas, the Missouri Valley, eastward toward the Ohio Valley. Widespread 70s to low 80s here, lower humidity across these areas. Meanwhile, we do have that ridge starting to build westward here, like I was showing you, all the way up into Saskatchewan, all the way up into Alberta and the western United States. We're going to be sweating it out here in the 90s as we move into your Tuesday time frame. Even some hundreds again down in the southern United States, but really as we get into Wednesday midweek, really start to kind of shove that heat dome a little farther south, really towards Texas into Louisiana and along the immediate Gulf Coast as we get toward the middle of the week. And we have that ridge backing to the west, so we have a lot of cooler air across areas around the Mississippi River on east, with lots of 70s out there, guys. So definitely get outside and enjoy the nice weather while we have it. Definitely, the time to do so with temperatures so nice out there in the 70s, lots of lower humidity. Definitely, that type of weather to get outside, walk the dog, or do something like that. Definitely would be the time to do it here this week. But again, across the western United States, from Washington down through Oregon, California, and to Arizona, we're going to be sweating it out, guys. We're going to be seeing temperatures in the 90s and low to mid 100s across some of these areas. A lot of heat building across the western United States with that ridge as we get toward the middle of the week. With that, we also have the transition, and that brings the threat for some severe weather. We have a couple areas we're watching. We got the marginal risk across the Dakotas into northwestern Minnesota here. We also have an area of a marginal risk, 1 out of 5 on the scale here, across eastern Colorado, southern Nebraska, northern Kansas, southwestern Iowa, and northwestern portions there of Missouri, including the Kansas City area, Omaha, Nebraska, the Lincoln, Nebraska area, and then getting back west here just to the east of the Denver area. And then we have a slight risk of severe weather across the Carolinas here into northern South Carolina and much of west central portions of North Carolina, with kind of a frontal boundary extending westward toward the Atlanta metro and in toward the Birmingham, Tuscaloosa area as we kind of move into the afternoon, providing that threat for the marginal risk of severe weather there. So let's kind of break this down here with the kind of the dynamics in the atmosphere, kind of your hazards out there, what you can expect with some of these storms. We got that lower end threat for some wind across the north central plains, but we really have that slight risk for some wind here, that 15% 15% wind category across North Carolina into the South Carolina here as we head into this afternoon. We also do have a 15% chance of some hail there as well. Again, some marginal hail across portions of the Dakotas into the Central Plains there, but it really is across North Carolina into portions of South Carolina that we actually have the threat for some quarter, half dollar, maybe even some ping pong ball size hail as we move here into this afternoon and this evening. Even the threat for a tornado or two is not to be ruled out across the Carolinas, especially the central and western Carolinas. As we move into this afternoon, the Storm Prediction Center highlights that area for a 2% chance of a tornado or two. So we'll continue to watch that as we head into this afternoon. If we do have to go live this afternoon to keep you guys ahead of all the storms, we will do so. So I'll keep tracking that here, and we'll see what happens here later on today. But we'll kind of break down how we're seeing this severe weather. We have dew points rising well into the 60s out there here in the blue shading areas. That's dew points here into the middle and upper 60s. These purple shadings, we actually have dew point temperatures rising to around 70 degrees even across much of the Carolinas. That is actually going to contribute to what we call CAPE, convective available potential energy. That will be pretty limited today, but we definitely still have that around the 1,000 to 1,500 joule per kilogram energy in the atmosphere as we get into the western and central Carolinas in that slight risk zone later on today. We do have some wind shear overlapping that instability. So again, you don't have to have a terrible amount of instability and shear to make this a higher end threat. But again, this is a lower end threat today. We're not talking about a moderate risk or anything like that. But definitely want to stay on your toes later on this afternoon when we have some of that instability and shear kind of overlapping each other. We got around 40 to 50 knots here across especially North Carolina in that slight risk zone, and that's where we could see some storm organization, some of these supercells later on today. So let's track that for you. Let's use the HRRR model here as we kind of move into the morning hours. We have kind of an organized complex of showers and storms moving through western Virginia into West Virginia, and then maybe a couple of bubbling storms up towards the New York City area. These should be, some small hail producers, some heavy rain producers, but the main severe weather threat will start to shift southward as we move here into the late afternoon, around 3, 4 o'clock this afternoon here across the, portions of the Carolinas into, southern Virginia there. A couple of these storms could be supercells as we move into the afternoon, producing the threat for an isolated tornado, damaging wind gusts up to 70 miles per hour, and perhaps up to ping pong ball size hail. So we'll continue to watch that as we head into the afternoon. These will continue to move south, and as they do, as they intercept some of that shear, the storm organization is going to increase, and we're going to have a lot more, upscale growth into kind of a complex or MCS of thunderstorms, a mesoscale convective system that will propagate to the south across the outer banks there of the Carolinas towards Myrtle Beach and towards portions there of the outer banks of, eastern North Carolina as we head into the evening hours. And that will bring itself offshore here into the western Atlantic as we kind of move into your Tuesday morning. So again, the threat is there for damaging winds, large hail, and an isolated brief tornado cannot be ruled out, especially into North Carolina and northern South Carolina later on today. Bringing it a little bit farther out here, zooming it out for you guys, you can see those two other marginal risk areas, one across portions there of the Dakotas I showed you earlier, another area down here into Kansas, eastern portions of Colorado, southern Nebraska, and over toward the Omaha and Kansas City area. We can see a complex of showers and storms here later on this afternoon developing across portions of northwestern Iowa, southeastern portions there of South Dakota, northeastern Nebraska. That will propagate kind of along a frontal boundary here that will, move down to the south and east. But we're watching back to the west. We'll have some more scattered supercells try to develop across portions of the Dakotas, stretching down into the front range here, the Rockies near the Denver area and just to the east of Denver as we move into the peak heating time frame of the day here later on this afternoon, early this evening. That will move off to the east, and yeah, we're seeing a lot of shear here, widespread shear values in the eastern Nebraska, much of Iowa, and down towards Kansas City, around or exceeding 50 knots. So we're definitely seeing some storm organization for a complex of storms that will provide the threat for some heavy rainfall here. The Weather Prediction Center's 48-hour precipitation forecast shows some pretty robust rainfall amounts across portions of the Missouri Valley, getting back westward here towards the northern plains. Some of these areas here in northern Missouri and southern and southwestern Iowa could be approaching 2 inches of rain, if not up to 3 inches of rain, some well-needed rain across this area as we kind of move into the next 24 to 48 hours. So that is some good news as well. Even across the Carolinas here, up into Virginia, West Virginia, some of these areas could be approaching or exceeding an inch of rain as well, with that complex of storms developing there. And looks like for the most part, the heavy rainfall across portions of the southern Texas will move westward into northern Mexico, but we could be talking about some more heavy rainfall across southern Texas with that tropical system moving westward as we kind of move through the next 48 hours there as well. Looking ahead to your Tuesday, we got another marginal risk across the mid-south towards the Gulf Coast. Again, this is for areas in the northeastern Oklahoma, southwestern portions there of Missouri down through the Little Rock, Fort Smith area, getting down here into portions of Jackson, Mississippi, and perhaps even Mobile, Alabama as well for your Tuesday. Same thing for your Wednesday. Again, some of these same areas, again, along the Gulf Coast in the southeastern United States has that marginal risk for severe weather along areas of Jackson, Mississippi, back toward Alexandria, Louisiana, and then across portions of southern Georgia, southern Alabama, and perhaps the northwestern Florida panhandle as we head towards midweek here for your Wednesday. So looking back here as we get toward the late week portion, we still have that ridge dominating across the western United States from the Rockies on west, while east of the Rocky Mountains we have a very strong, very potent trough continuing across these areas, bringing that cooler weather here for your Thursday. That will continue even into early this weekend here on your Saturday. You can see here that trough digging down into portions there of the middle and upper Mississippi Valley into the Great Lakes here, with that ridge continuing to dominate across portions of the Rockies on west here towards the Pacific Northwest, the desert Southwest. A lot of these areas will be dry, very warm, very sunny here as well. If you guys aren't under the monsoonal rainfall, you definitely have lots of sunshine out there, drying it out even more, and that drought will be persisting across these areas even through next weekend. Looking at the temperatures at the surface here as we get towards Thursday, August 18th, widespread cool temperatures across much of the Midwest, the New England region, much of the Ohio Valley, the Southeast even here getting a break from some of the heat as well. And look at this, guys, down into Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas. Yeah, we'll still be hot, but not as hot as what we've been seeing here as of late here, especially the last few weeks. We're going to be seeing temperatures in the lower, maybe even middle 90s here, a big cool down from what we've seen recently. Definitely, cooler than normal there. But look at the Pacific Northwest and just the West Coast in general, guys. A lot of heat building up into Washington, 104 here into portions of central Washington. Lots of 100-degree temperatures into California as well as Idaho and Oregon. A lot of temperatures warming up here into the hundreds out west. That will continue here as we head into Friday. Very potent, trough across the eastern United States. We'll warm up a little bit across the southern plains, but again, still in the low to mid 90s, still pretty tolerable, especially if you guys are used to that 100-degree weather down there. We're going to still see some cooler weather, relatively speaking, down that way here as we head into Friday. And looking here longer range, the Climate Prediction Center 6 to 10 day temperature outlook here from August 20th through the August 24th time frame, it does favor below normal temperatures across much of the southern and central United States and across the Pacific Northwest, the West Coast, and maybe inching its way over towards the northwestern Great Plains. We'll be seeing more of that, well above normal temperature regime, occur across those areas, especially from Saturday onward here towards the 24th of the month here toward the middle of the following week. Maybe some above normal temperatures there across New England as well, but it's certainly not as hot as what we're seeing across the Pacific Northwest. Looking at the precipitation anomalies, we'll still have that monsoonal weather here continuing in a big way across the four corners. Some much needed beneficial rains there. Even some beneficial rains down through Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, and stretching over toward the Ohio Valley and into New England here with some above normal precipitation there as well. We don't need the rainfall so much across the Ohio Valley, but we definitely need it desperately across Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas. And it looks like we'll get some here as we head into this weekend and especially into next week. Looks drier than normal across the upper Midwest and the northern plains, especially into the Dakotas and into Minnesota as we head into that 20th through the 24th time frame. And even extending it out towards the final days here of August. I know it's already getting towards the end of August, guys, here. We're in the middle of August now. And we're seeing some cooler than normal temperatures persisting across Texas, much of the desert Southwest, stretching eastward toward the Tennessee and Ohio valleys, while we still have that persistent ridge across the western and northwestern portions of the country, as well as the ridge kind of collapsing over top of this trough as we get into southern Canada, the upper Midwest, and the New England region as we kind of move into that August 22nd through the 28th time frame. And again, where that ridge is more persistent with all the heat continuing across the northern and northwestern United States, you can expect below normal precipitation there. Pretty inactive here with the jet stream. The active jet stream is actually going to continue to push south towards the southwestern United States and the southern plains, and even extending over towards the southeast here as we move towards the end of August. Let's turn your attention here to the tropical weather update. We got Tropical Depression 10E across to your portions of the eastern Pacific Ocean, right over the open waters just to the west of Mexico, southwest of the Baja of California. That's going to continue to slowly meander its way to the east, or actually rather to the west here as we kind of move here through the next few days, really becoming a post-tropical system here as we move into the middle of the week. So this is pretty much a nuisance, really just over the open waters. So we're not going to take too much time out of this to look at that. But we are seeing a new area of interest across portions of the central and southwestern Atlantic basin here. The National Hurricane Center has highlighted this area well to the north of the Lesser Antilles here for a 10% chance of development over the next 2 to 5 days. Again, this looks to stay over mainly the open waters here, so that is some good news. It really doesn't look to become much of a system. We got kind of a frontal boundary pushing to the east across the western Atlantic, meeting up with some tropical moisture here in the central and southwestern Atlantic basin here, and that could make for a depression or maybe kind of a weak tropical system as we head through the next few days. We'll continue to watch this. Certainly not a hurricane and certainly not a tropical storm, but probably more likely here along the lines of a very weak tropical system and maybe a tropical depression at most. But I don't expect too much to come out of the system, especially here since it's really just going to stay over the open waters. I don't expect a lot of consequences to the United States or the greater or lesser Antilles with this, especially as it kind of pushes more to the north and gets eaten up here by this Bermuda high pressure system. But looking longer range, things are looking pretty interesting here for the Atlantic hurricane season. I know a lot of us have been waiting for this to start the hurricanes to start going here in the Atlantic, and things do look pretty interesting as we get toward the end of August, guys. Right now here we're in this period between the 14th and 21st time frame of August. Looks pretty busy across the far southern Atlantic. But even if we get here toward the Lesser Antilles and much of the Gulf Coast and the Caribbean, it looks pretty dry. We still have some of that Saharan dust continuing, a lot of wind shear, ongoing, and some cooler waters in some of these spots here of kind of, inhibiting some of the storm action. But as we get towards that last week or so here into August, things look a little bit more interesting here. There are some anomalies you can see here, the greens, even the deeper blues showing up just west of the African coast. Yeah, they're still across the southern Atlantic basin, but that is an area of formation at this time of year we definitely have to watch the kind of origin points for some of these tropical systems, and we'll watch that as we get towards that 21st through the 28th time frame here in August. And breaking this down a little bit further, this is the operational GFS weather model here, and again, this GFS model has been a little weird this year. I'm going to be the first one to admit that, but we see the trends. We're going to see the trends. We're going to look at the ensembles and kind of show you what we can forecast here moving forward as we get towards the end of August, toward the second half of August here for the hurricane season in the Atlantic. So looking at the GFS again, we're seeing maybe a system coming off the western African coast as we get towards this weekend here, towards the the 19th, 20th, 21st time frame here this weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then as we get into early next week, the following week, I know we're already just on Monday, but we're kind of looking ahead. The GFS gets a little interesting, showing maybe a weaker system, maybe a tropical depression here, just an open wave of a tropical system here moving west here, again, well to the east of the Lesser Antilles, so we're again over the open waters of the southern Atlantic basin. But it even gets more interesting as we move towards that following weekend, towards the last weekend here in August. The GFS is starting to spit out here a 989 millibar low pressure system, which would probably be more likely a stronger tropical system or maybe even a hurricane. But again, this is very far out. I'm just showing you the trends, and the trends are really starting to show we could have two separate systems across the southern Atlantic basin here that we really might have to watch towards the end of August here, guys, going into early September. One of these could be approaching the Lesser Antilles, while the other one just on its heels here across between the Lesser Antilles and the African coast. And then we could be seeing another system behind that. But again, we're just getting started here, starting to retrieve some of the information for this pattern. So again, we're in the early stages of this, but we kind of want to let you know that, hey, the hurricane season is really going to be ramping up potentially here into the late August into early September as expected. So we'll continue to watch that. And let's look at this a little bit further. This is the GEFS. This is an ensemble to the GFS, and it does show that above normal precipitation anomalies showing up here with the trends just across the southern Atlantic basin, really kind of in the same area as the operational GFS, and even another ensemble, the GEPS, is actually showing a similar solution to that as well, moving westward toward the Lesser Antilles as we get towards that 25th, 26th time frame of August. And even looking at this further, the EPS, this is an ensemble here, kind of a cousin to the European forecast model, and yeah, it's still showing that towards the end of August. This doesn't go out as far, but still you can see the above normal precipitation anomalies showing up across the southern Atlantic basin here in some of these origin points. So we'll definitely continue to watch this, guys. Again, we have several more days and another week or so to watch this, but again, I do want to make you guys aware that, yeah, the tropical system will be potentially something to watch as we get towards late August. And again, we have some cooler waters in the southern Atlantic basin, but if these storms or if these systems do develop here, some of the ensemble models and the operational GFS shows and it verifies, if they move into the Caribbean here in the Gulf of Mexico or even the western Atlantic basin, all bets are off, guys. We have a lot of warm waters here. We've had a lot of warm waters across this area here for a long time here, for a couple of months now. But looking here across the eastern Pacific basin, still pretty warm as well. So even some areas could be pretty active there through the next several days if we can get some more tropical weather across the Central Americas into the eastern Pacific basin as well. I did want to touch on this here real quick for you guys. Again, the La Nina is really strengthening, guys. Look at here, all the way back to the middle of July. We've kind of descended a little bit here with the to a moderate La Nina. We're now approaching a strong La Nina, guys. Look at the last couple of days here and towards the middle of August. This thing has just catapulted downward here. This has just went downward here, dropped like a rock, and it's really approaching that negative 0.9, almost that negative 1.0 mark here on the Nino index, which would characterize it as a strong La Nina. So we'll continue to watch that, and you can see that here over the last 7 days, really strong bursts of cooler waters across the equatorial Pacific, and that really characterizes that stronger La Nina developing. And that's what the worry was, and this La Nina could potentially still be on track for potentially a record-breaking strong La Nina this year here, dating all the way back to the the late 1800s and the early 1900s. So again, this could be in a historic La Nina. We're already into potentially a three-peat La Nina, and this could make it even more historic if we can make that record-setting strong La Nina on record. So we'll continue to watch that, guys. And again, I thank you guys for watching my video. Remember to like my video, give me a thumbs up down below, leave me any comments, questions, concerns down below. I'll get to those later today. And subscribe, guys. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Our new goal is 1,000 subscribers. Please help out by doing so down below. It's free to do, and I definitely appreciate it. Thank you guys for watching the video. Have a great work week, a great Monday out there, and I'll see you guys in the next video.